Folks are back. This is Steve Sanson and Stephanie Phillips with another episode of Veterans in Politics. Today, our guest is going to be Nathan Atkins. He's a former North Las Vegas Mayoral candidate, and he's going to discuss the corruption that sits in the city of North Las Vegas. But before we get to Mr. Atkins, Ms. Phillips.
I have a couple of announcements. So I want to say again, February 22nd, guys, we're having a book signing event. You know the book that Steve has written, How to Navigate Nevada's Family Court System. So you can get a copy on Amazon. It's $14.99, or you can get a copy at the event. It's from 3:30 to 5 at the West Las Vegas Library, and that's at 951 West Lake Mead. So jump on our event page and look at all the details and come on down and join us. And also February 4th at 5:30 at Stoney's is the CCRP meeting. That is a very important meeting to attend. If you want to vote, please attend. You have to attend 2 meetings, and this meeting is very, very important. Also, we were down court observing today. It was actually a good time. We went into 4 courtrooms and great marshals. We went into Susan Baucom's courtroom, Amy Wilson, Cynthia Dustin Cruz, and Erica Mendoza. Mm-hmm. And Dino Kelly, shout out to you. It was great to see you. That is Erica's marshal, and seen him for a long time. But anyway, very professional, and you guys did great.
Yeah, I've noticed that the marshals and the judges are being more cooperative to court observers, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, but it was funny though, the one in Baucom's courtroom that had 5 felonies. How many misdemeanors? 50 some.
Oh, you're talking about the
$500,000? Yeah, the $500,000 bail guy.
54 failure to appear.
Failure to appear 54 times. But he still has the right to have bail, and it was set at $500,000. Yeah.
And electronic monitoring.
That's right. Yes, electronic. In my opinion, after you have messed up that many times and you haven't shown up to court, you don't get bail. But
yeah, and we were in Amy Wilson's courtroom that I didn't do on the live in front of the courthouse, and she wasn't there. It was Robert Walsh, who was apparently her hearing master, that presided over her courtroom, and her marshal was very...
He just didn't talk to us this time. So Amy...
Non-complacent. I guess I like that part better than the other one, be aggressive and being a butthead.
Right. Yeah, it was all good, Amy. He didn't even say boo to us.
You did a good job, Amy. Thank you for scoring him away. You have anything else, Ms. Phillips?
That's it for now. I'll think of some rants later. But we have some
shows today, by the way.
We do, back to back.
Yeah. And everybody, we have a family court judge that's coming on the next show around 7 p.m. So
we have a lot to talk about with Nathan. So
congratulations on the book, by the way.
Thank you, brother. You gonna buy one?
Oh, I need to buy 2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I came a little late today, so I apologize. So I need to buy 2 books now. One is a gift to give.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There's always people out there that needs that.
They do. People don't understand how important their local government system is. They pay attention to what's on TV, but what happens mostly is what's local. So it's a hard thing for people to understand. But
so please give us a bio.
So yeah. So my background, I am originally from Chicago, moved out here to Vegas.
Chi-town.
That's right. That's right. Love living out here in Vegas. I've lived in North Las Vegas the entire time I've lived here. My family has been in North Las Vegas since '94. I've been here since 13.
Why did you choose North Las Vegas, by the way?
Because my family was already there. And then when I brought Maggie up from Miami, we needed to find a space to...
Who's Maggie?
Maggie's my wife.
Okay.
To cohabitate in. And I said, well, I'd owned several properties in Chicago. I was over the whole property ownership thing. So we were looking to rent a space. Okay. And a buddy of mine said, oh, there's this really smoking deal. And I'm like, what's a smoking deal? And so it turned out it was a really good deal. So it was like 7 minutes away from where my family was. Okay. So it was close to family. Yeah. It's affordable. There was no way I was going to rent for cheaper than it. So we bought the house there. So it wasn't a whole lot of, I really did a lot of looking into where I wanted to live and what I wanted to do. And then we've just been there. So it's comfortable. I mean, I don't have any complaints.
Okay.
So I live right where that El Dorado area is. So yeah, it's fine. It's quiet. We mind our business, but we're here today to talk about North Las Vegas and the great city that it is. And I know you guys
Did you see that city council race with Robert Twix Taylor?
Yeah, what an interesting race.
7 or 9 votes he lost.
Yeah, he was ahead by 60, and then they do the curing. And I'm still not 100% clear on what curing is. I was explaining it to me. People have to go in and do some stuff. And I guess supposedly some of his folks thought that when they were reached out to by whoever does it, the county, I believe, that it was like spam or bogus or fake, so they didn't cure their ballots. And he went from being ahead by 60 to he lost by 8, I believe. So what a rough race.
It was a police officer that was searching my vehicle one time. I say, "You're searching my vehicle." He goes, "I'm not searching your vehicle. I'm frisking it." I'm like,
wait, what? How do you frisk a vehicle?
He's frisking it.
Yeah,
that's not searching though.
Okay.
So that just goes to show how important every single vote is. People think that their vote doesn't matter. It certainly does, especially in these races.
I don't know how true it is. I would assume it's true, but I was told Richard Churchill lost his seat one time. Councilman Churchill when he ran. I'm sorry, I should have said councilman. And I heard he lost by 1 vote. So you are absolutely right. Every vote counts.
North Las Vegas is funny like that because it was years ago in the city council race. 2 individuals, I forget the 2, but they were tied.
Oh, is that with Vegas where you flipped it?
It was a coin toss, heads or
coin
tails.
Toss, yeah.
That's how they decided who's going to be the city council person. Do you think they take that seriously?
You know what? Here's the thing. When you're in a casino town, that sounds like the rules, right? So I've never seen it anywhere else, but I did hear that is how you resolve issues here. I thought it was a high card cut, but it's a coin toss.
You know what I would want? I would want to step in the ring with my opponent, and whoever wins becomes a city council.
Well, yeah, that would be fair if you were relatively equally matched, but let's say it was.
But I don't think nobody wants to step in the ring with you.
Let's say it was you and Shelley Berkeley, right? No one would. No one would give you any love if you beat up on an old woman, right? So it wouldn't be very fair.
All right, the coin toss.
We got to go back to the coin toss. Yeah. So, but anyway, I mean, there's just, what? Here's the thing. When you and I spoke, I'm like, there's a lot of stuff going on. And again, back to your point about was it out in the open when we were having a conversation before we started live? And I said, well, probably because it was at a city council meeting that it was approved. What happens is people don't pay attention to what's going on. I mean, I remember when I ran, I tried to rally people to just come to the city council meetings, and they don't come. And I'm like, well, just watch it on the internet. You can phone it. They've made it relatively convenient. Now, I don't disagree with Senator Spearman. I think she's no longer a senator, but when she said that they moved it from 6 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and 4 o'clock's hard for working people to make the meeting, I agree with that, right? But they do make it convenient where you can go on the internet and you can do it with flexibility, but you have to attend these things because there's lots of stuff going on. Like, let's just throw the first thing on the table.
But excuse me, when you go on the internet, you can't do public comment.
You can.
You can.
They do. They have
really?
it. Yeah. And you wait in queue. Because I made a public comment once when Forgotten Not Gone was being recognized for something. And I made a public comment. It's a little kludgy. It's a little rough. It's not so smooth and easy. But it's possible. It's not very.
It's more powerful being in person.
It is extremely more powerful being in person, right? But so
for all the folks, sorry to interrupt you. For all the folks, you ran for mayor of city, North Las Vegas in 22. Is that right? 22 cycle?
Was it the 20? Yep, or 22 cycle.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Because Mayor Pamela Goins-Brown is who's the sitting mayor now, and 26 is coming up for the new cycle. So,
and speaking of that, do you think she was termed out, or do you think she should be the mayor? Because there was controversy about that.
So that was kind of interesting. So she was 10 and a half years, I think, into her city council term. And so I think the ruling came down since she hadn't hit 12. She was allowed to take the seat, and once in the seat, she's allowed to keep the seat for the 4 years, if I understand it correctly.
So now she's termed out.
So that's what I'm understanding. I'm still fuzzy because it seems to be...
It's fuzzy math.
Everything seems to be fuzzy. My personal take on it is if you don't have the capability to sit the full term based on what the voters said they wanted, which was no one to stay more than 12 years, then it shouldn't happen. I also can understand, though, a governing body or a judicial body saying, hey, you're eligible. Your eligibility will be exceeded if you sit the full term, but we'll make the exception for the full term. I can see both sides of the argument, right? But the people spoke and said they wanted someone to sit no more than 12 years. So in theory, the people said you don't get to sit for the full 4 if you have 12. But she's there and it's in, and it seems to be legal and just. And the Nevada Supreme Court didn't have any reason to say no to it, or no one was willing to fight it, or you know how that works.
Well, North Las Vegas, there's a lot of funny things going on over there. I mean, with the Catherine Ramsey trying to, the Supreme Court came down with the ruling about you can't recall a sitting judge and all that. And, I don't even know how the Supreme Court can make a rule like that, because it affects them. It's a conflict of interest, basically. And it should be left up to the legislature and the voters should make that decision. But I don't think anybody challenged it. And it was in North Las Vegas as well.
So and challenges are the thing. And so challenges obviously cost money. Speaking of which, since you brought up Robert Taylor's race, so you realize that for him to challenge
250.
Those 8 votes, I think it was 156,000 and some change for him to do that, right? So that would be roughly the full 4 years of what he would have made as a city councilman. Probably somebody in the legislature needs to look at the law and say, when the race is that close, we should take a look at it automatically, and instead of
I think
saying
the city should get the costs.
Right. So somebody should, because instead of saying to a candidate who's running, hey, you want to challenge this? Okay. I mean, because you were ahead, now you're behind. It happened during the curing process, which all of it is above board from what I understand. So it's not like it's any shady dealings. It's tight. So we should sit down and go, let's make sure we got this right. And to turn to a candidate and say, well, if you want to make sure this is right, cough up $156,000 and cover the cost. And it's like, well, that's a lot to ask, especially when you're talking about a down ballot race like this, where they shouldn't be that expensive to run in. Although I'll be fair, we're getting to the point of where city council races are getting in the couple $100,000, and the mayor's race is inching up towards $1 million to run in a city like the city of North Las Vegas and Henderson. So these are smaller ones. I mean, we know it's over $1 million to run in Las Vegas. So these costs are getting out of hand, and it's harder and harder to get people who are willing to step in the ring and do these type of things who aren't, in my opinion, already preordained. But that's a whole nother topic.
Well, let's talk about there's a lot of controversial issues that surround North Las Vegas, and one of them is the city manager. Let's talk about Ryan Juden for a minute. Ryan
Juden. So, interesting fella. I had just in full transparency, I invited Ryan Juden to speak at my Rotary Club. He spoke. He's a very nice fella. I think the challenge here, though, is did the city council authorize and approve him to be a consultant for the city after he's stepping down as the city manager?
And how much did he step down with?
Well, if I read the article correctly, I think he made $933,000 and some change, almost $1 million bucks. Plus, I think another $15,000 or $30,000 a year in costs not to exceed. So let's back up from that right away, right? So you have Henderson, second largest city in Nevada. You have the city of Las Vegas, which for those who don't understand, there's county and city, and I think that's confusing for a lot of folks, right? Because it says Las Vegas, but it's really the county. But you have the city of Las Vegas, which is the largest city. And then, of course, you have North Las Vegas, which moved into third place, pushing Reno to fourth. So you have a city that was on the brink of bankruptcy, that was going to be insolvent. You have the third largest city, and yet the city manager who was hired was paid more than the city of Las Vegas and the city of Henderson. So even before we got to this whole point, right, he was the highest paid city manager, because you can go to Transparency Nevada, by the way, and see what people make. It's out there. And if you went there, you would see that he was making a good $20,000, $30,000 more than the second largest and the first largest city. So I kind of didn't understand that math. And not to mention, when he came in the seat, it was because, if you've ever heard former Mayor John Lee speak, That city was almost insolvent. If it wasn't for John Lee and his team, which Ryan Juden was part of, the city would have gone down in ashes, and they saved the city.
Carolyn Goodman wanted North Las Vegas to be a part of Las Vegas, by the way.
So
she offered it up.
So did she? I didn't realize that. But the conversation was they were talking about divvying it up between the county and Las Vegas. They were going to take portions of it if it couldn't be satisfied. Now the legislative group says, wait a minute, City of North Las Vegas, you didn't do it all on your own. We wrote legislative rules. We worked with you. We helped you put this whole thing together to bring the city back. But they said, no. It was all us. And because we made permitting faster, which made it attractive, and businesses came and spent money and so forth and so on. And hey, listen, I get it, right? If I'm sitting in the seat, I'm never talking myself down. I'm always talking myself up. So I have no knock on former Mayor John Lee touting what worked when he sat in the seat. No leader ever sits up and says what didn't work when they sit in the seat, right? But the funny thing was let's also talk about the controversy between the city manager who was in the seat when Ryan Juden, who, if I'm not mistaken, was part of John Lee's team to get him elected, then became the assistant city manager, and then they removed the city manager, and I think she's still suing the city of North Las Vegas over that whole transparency of moving her out of the seat, moving Ryan Juden in the seat, and then they moved him in the seat, and like I said, he was the highest paid city manager of a city that was on the brink of collapse. I don't understand.
Who is he related to?
To
get that deal.
That's a good question. I don't think it's a relation issue. I think it's a social
connection
issue. But we won't address that because they're a large entity here in the Valley and other states, and so you don't want to ruffle those feathers too much.
I like to ruffle the feathers.
So I know you do. I know you do.
Any feathers.
I know you do. I'm just not afraid to come talk anywhere, so that's why I never worry about it. But people always go, "Oh, don't go talk on Steve's show," and I'm like, "Hey, listen, I've known Steve since I've been in the Valley, and listen, I've always respected him for who he is, and he respects me for who I am, and." You know, when I hear folks say what they say about you, I go, it's because you just really don't know them, or you expect them to be the way you want them to be. And well, to my opinion on that is shame on you. People are who they are. And either,
tellers. And a lot of people don't like truth, Well, sometimes the truth hurts.
Well, let's be fair. No one likes truth, right? So this country isn't built on truth. We market everything we want people to act, see, know, or feel. And truth is not usually your friend, right? And here's a simple one. Does this dress make me look fat? You better not be very truthful when that question gets answered because it's going to be a rough night at the house for you. So truth isn't always, if you could just be like, I'm not really sure what this dress does.
I wanted to get back to that Catherine Ramsey thing because this is just bugging me because the city council put up Sandra Morgan, which was their city attorney, to run against Catherine Ramsey if there was an election, which I thought was a conflict of interest anyway. And the reason why I brought that up is because just to show a pattern of how this corruption just keeps going and going and going and going and nobody stops it. Everybody is always excusing it or always turning a blind eye or a deaf ear to it or say, you know what, it's not worth my trouble. But it's just, North Las Vegas is having a really, really bad time showing that they're above the fray. You know what I mean?
It is difficult, right? Because the judge appointment, what was it, Judge Lee? You think that Judge Lee was removed, but then they opened up a second court.
What are you talking about?
In North Las Vegas. So you're
talking about with Chris Lee?
Yep. So they opened up a second court seat, and then they just appointed him instead of being elected. But if it was my understanding that he had lost his race.
He lost his race.
Right. And then.
Usually when you lose your race, you can't even be a senior judge.
Right. But then they expanded the court, a new seat was created, and then they appointed him.
Yes.
So, I mean, we have.
What are you guys doing, man?
We have some of these things going on. Let's not forget, right? So Mayor Pamela Goins Brown, she was Second Ward City Council, which Robert Taylor ran for her former seat. Now her seat, there were people. So usually there's an application process if they're not going to hold a special election. They always say they can't hold a special election because it's too expensive. It's taxpayers' dollars. It's a problem. But it's never a problem to just put people in spots and appoint them to how you want, like with Lee or any of these other things. So the unique thing about it was I think her name is Garcia Anderson, I think is her name, who's sitting in the seat now.
And where did she hail from? She
relatively unknown. No one knew nothing about her.
She was a housewife, is my understanding. She doesn't have any business background or anything like that. I mean, I'm not trying to
knocking housewives,
taking away, taking care of kids and the house, but I'm talking about the city council.
there was, I think there's one not-for-profit board maybe she sat on that had to do with community and children. But yes, no one was aware of her at all. Relatively unknown, and so. The applications, because Robert Taylor had filed his application, but something was amiss with his paperwork. There were two other people, and I don't remember their names, but something was amiss with their paperwork. But this young woman, Garcia Anderson, who has never run, never filed, never done anything to my knowledge, her paperwork was pristine and clean and got put right on in. And then, of course, now we got the ballot curing situation. And I'm not saying that I am the end all be all, because I am not, but I will say that I pay attention to the races since I decided to run and get more involved. And I really didn't see much campaigning from her. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of surprised when it was really that tight and that close. And then she ended up winning. But,
Robert worked his tail off.
He worked his
He was everywhere.
He was. He did a lot of work. So, and I sent him a congratulations right away on it. And unfortunately, a situation. And listen, congratulations to Garcia Anderson. The game is the game, and what do they say? Don't hate the player, hate the game, right? So we need to fix the game, which is what you're talking about. And the game seems to be a little slanted in the city of North Las Vegas because, well, you look at things like the town has grown significantly. We're up to almost 300,000 people. So I think we're about 283,000 people. So, I think it's Vista, which is the hospital over on the east side of North Las Vegas, has been the hospital for a long time. New hospital was due. They put a bid out for it. They had the land that they were given from BLM. They sold the land for $30-some-odd million. They selected a vendor to do the build out. And I looked at the RFP. By the way, what makes me qualified to look at RFPs? Well, I work in the state local government space in my corporate job, have for many, many years. I bid on contracts all the time for major corporations I work for, so I know the RFP process and all those things. So I know the records are public. Pulled the information and said, well, why did these three bidders get to be selected? Of the three, only one had experience building medical facilities, right? The one that got selected has never built a medical facility before. The Pacific Group is very well known in Utah for building beautiful condominiums at ski resorts. They've built facilities like Home Depots and those type of commercial facilities, but never built a hospital, never built a medical research park, never built any of that stuff before.
North Las Vegas might be a guinea pig then.
North Las Vegas was going to be a guiney pig, and they had it they had it right in the renderings on their website, right? Because this was their first time on the project. But they bought the property for $37 million. They were selected. I looked at all the records on it, which I thought was kind of unique because I've been to these awards before. Usually salespeople show up to see, hey, did I win this contract? Yes or no. In this scenario, though, the CEO showed up, and how I know this is because when I looked at the city record, the mayor had asked, I forget Jared's last name, but he was economic director at the time, have we made a selection? And he said, yes, Mayor, we have. And he was like, we're selecting this company. And then the mayor then immediately said, well, I see the CEO for the company sitting in the audience. I'd like you to come down and say a few words. Now, let's be clear on this, right? And this is just my opinion, but I'm going to be very clear on this. CEOs generally don't show up. So Pacific Group, I think, is a $60-80 million corporation, maybe $100 million, sizable corporation. But CEOs generally don't show up to bids. And if they show up to bid awards, they know they've already won the bid award. Clearly, our mayor knew who the CEO for this company was and saw him in the audience, right? So it kind of was weird to me when he asked the question, did we award this to someone? I think it's pretty clear you can see who got the award because I don't think the other two CEOs were sitting there next to him, crossing their fingers going, I hope it's me, I hope it's me, I hope. Oh, damn, it was you. It was you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me go jump in my car and get out of here. I was hoping we'd win. Anyway, that whole thing transpired, right? So now we're going to bring this Helos, which is a Canadian operation, medical center, university. You can bring them in, build it right across from the VA center. 2 years have now passed. We've scooped one shovel of dirt. We took all the photos, and guess what? The project's not going to happen. But fear not, because we bought the property back for less than market rate, my friend. Less than market rate. So that's good news.
Oh my gosh.
So what that really means is there was only $16 million delta, meaning difference, meaning loss, meaning less, meaning we paid more than we sold for, in the 2 years that nothing happened. Well, that's not true. I did see the new sign get replaced because the sun faded it, and they put up a new sign saying Helios was coming, but well, we took that down. So the big question is, well, where's that $16 million and where did it go and what happened to it and how did it evaporate? Now,
maybe it went to pay Ryan Juden.
Wait, he's only got 933 and some change, and that's an active investigation. So I'll only speak on the fact that there was a news article saying that there's an active investigation, an ethics investigation into this whole scenario about, one, the city council authorizing him to have this consulting contract before he was officially no longer the city manager. So the rules are pretty clear. The sitting city manager cannot enrich themselves in a consulting contract before being out of office, right? After leaving, he can. And I think personally, there should be a time lapse, right? Because if you just sat in the seat, we shouldn't be giving you a consulting contract immediately. We should let some time dissipate between that, but we clearly didn't. We also put the city attorney into the city manager's seat. So I'm not really sure if there was a search for a city manager to replace him.
Did the public know about this?
So to your
They
point,
probably didn't bring in the public for any kind of.
So to your point, the public does because it's public meeting law, right? So if the public paid attention and was willing to read the notes, they would know all these things. But in general, no one's knocking on the public's door to let them know these are the moves we're making. And we're making these moves because, back to the original comment, the public's not paying attention.
But if they didn't advertise the job and put it out there, and they were just...
I don't know if they did or didn't. I just find it curious to how there may have been an official search. Because sometimes when you're talking about leadership positions like this, there may not be a public job posting. There may just be a search. You hire a search firm to go look for a city manager because I'm a city of this size. I'm looking for a leader who's run a city of this specifications and this. You don't put it out there so you have a bunch of resumes to go through, and here you got a clerk from 7-Eleven going, well, I'll take the job. And you're like, yeah, not qualified. So you don't go through all of that. You go hire a search firm to get you qualified candidates. And then you sit down and vet maybe the top 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 and say, hey, this is what I want. Now, the city manager, from what I see in her background, doesn't have any experience as a city manager. City attorney, absolutely. But now is the city manager. And of course, Ryan Juden is the consultant who's going to consult the city. So if the city attorney didn't have experience, well, she's got Ryan Juden to lean on because he's right there, right? And I will say this because he said it, and we video our Rotary meetings. He said, you guys can send me an email because I'll be keeping my city email, even though I'm out of the position, right? So if you need to contact me, you can reach out and do that. So, I mean, it's whether it's legal or not, whether it's ethical or not, it's just nefarious. I mean, if we want people to respect the rule of government, right, we should run it in a way in which people don't go, what? And scratch their heads and go, well, that just seems like a fix or a setup, or, we should have some buffers and some firewalls and some caveats between. Perfect example, Betsy Fretwell was the city manager for Las Vegas. She left and went on and took a job somewhere else. If I'm not mistaken, she went to work for Switch. Well, no problem, because she's got nothing to do with the city of Las Vegas anymore. She served her time as the city manager and moved on. It's a normal process that should easily happen, but the city of North Las Vegas seems to be the gift that keeps giving to those who get in the position to receive the gift.
They want to keep their insiders on the insides. They keep control and they keep power and all this. And when you have turnover and you have new people, of course, they lose power.
Yeah.
So, but that's what needs to happen with all of elected seats. That's why we need term limits for every single elected seat. We need to have term limits so that we have that turnover, because it just lends itself to corruption. We see it all the time.
Well, they made term limits and they just
they
don't
just
even follow them.
kind of skirt around those, right?
Well,
so when I was running, what I said to the people very publicly, right? You can see me saying it in any form where it was recorded. You can't beat money. Money's always going to win, and that's just a fact. And I hate to be the one to bring it out there, because people go, no, you can't say that. You got to say the things people want to hear. You got to do. And I don't disagree, because I didn't win. So people were telling me that I have a very, very valid point. But the truth of the matter is where your power really lies is in the vote. So turn the apple cart over. Make money chase somebody new who they don't know. Don't get me wrong. They got plenty of it, and they'll probably corrupt the new person. But at least they'll have to go work on it, right? I don't know you, Miss Phillips. How are you doing? Oh, by the way, did you get my check? Oh, I didn't have your new address. Let me send it to you, and let me court you, and then get you more in my pocket. And then ultimately you're going to do my bidding, because the money is overwhelming. I mean, I challenge people all the time to go, I'll start. Mother Teresa. Okay, now you give me another one who's this altruistic, does all the, you can't find more than a handful in the history of humankind, right? Jesus Christ, maybe. But you know what I mean? We're very limited to that. So the power is the vote. And the power is going, stop voting for the same incumbent, going, I don't like the way the city's run, but let me just pick that same person who's been running it. Let me pick that same person
just because they know the name.
Definition of insanity,
Yeah, it's
right?
And
pathetic.
half the time they don't know the name, because when I was running, I told a young man, well, you probably know. He was like, let me tell you something. Just like we don't know you, I don't know any of those people you mentioned. So they don't even know the people they're voting for half the time. So one of my frustrations was, and we were on your show, by the way, I think his name was Jesse Adelson or something like that. He was a Navy vet. He was running under the Libertarian Party, nonpartisan for the city race, but we were both on, and it was clear, if you go back and look at those tapes, he knew next to nothing about North Las Vegas. Like at one point in time in the interview, he told Jim, I think they wasted money spending them on them signs. And Jim was like, well, what signs are you talking about? And he was like, I don't know exactly the ones, but I said, are you referencing the historic West Side signs? And he said, yeah, those are the ones. And I said, that's not North Las Vegas, that's Las Vegas. So here's a guy running for mayor for North Las Vegas, doesn't have the slightest clue.
It happens, but Mr. Atkins, I want to move on.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Senate Bill 184, which calls for the expansion of North Las Vegas?
I am very familiar with it. So it's a population.
Would that also bring another city council member if possible? Two. Explain.
Two. So you can't bring one, because you have to keep an odd number. If you brought one, it would make it 6, and then how would they ever break a tie, right?
Gotcha.
So what happens is if you look at the city of Reno, who is now the 4th largest city, they have had a city council of 7, a mayor and 6 council members for a long time. And so what was presented by the legislation is that the city of North Las Vegas has grown to a point where it needs to have better representation. And so they brought forth the bill and said it should be expanded to a mayor and 6 city council members. And of course, everyone lined up against it and said no. The city said no, it's going to cost too much money to get it done. The city of Henderson came in and said, oh, I think it's a bad idea, which, by the way, the city of Henderson is about to expand its council because of the growth of its population, and they're about to go to 7. A mayor plus 6, but they didn't think it was a good idea for North Las Vegas. But now they think it's a good idea for them, and they're.
But it costs too much, but they don't know where that $16 million went.
Supposedly it would cost the city about $1 million more if they added, those 2 extra council members to make sure that the city would be properly represented.
I'm sure they could find the money.
That was before the 16.
Number, the better the control, though. You do know that, right?
Yes.
Right.
Well, that's been the concern and the argument. The big concern and argument is one city council member has way too many constituents to be effective to support the city. And Reno was the example to use to go, hey, we have become significantly larger than Reno, and they've been on that system for quite some time. And everybody was no. And then, of course, the bill is now coming back again. And it's my understanding that it has a better chance of passing because people are going, well, it's bigger, so it needs more support. First time around, it was a bad idea, even though same amount of people. Second time around, there'll probably be 30,000 more people, and that's probably what'll push it over to make them want to do it. Maybe, I'm not sure, but I am familiar with it, yes.
How about the rent stabilization ballot measure that the culinary union is trying to block? You familiar with that?
So I thought they were fighting for rent stabilization.
Fighting for it, and then they nixed it.
They criticized the city council for rejecting.
For rejecting
Right,
it.
yeah.
That is correct. And so
My bad.
so my understanding is the city council said, well, we're not rejecting it. We're saying it's above our pay grade. And so we're stepping back and being out of the fray, which basically is rejecting it, right? But and so I'm not going to beat up on the city of North Las Vegas on this one because this is a statewide problem, right? Where we see and I know Senator Neal, Dina Neal, is in the process of, I don't know the bill number because I never remember the numbers, but I know the bills. She's putting out something trying to control corporations from buying up a bunch of our single family homes and making that possible. Because I just sat at a legislative caucus meeting where they sat before the public and said her and Brittany Miller, who's an assemblywoman, and I think her name is Linda Hunt, who's newly elected assemblywoman. They sat there and took questions from the public and said, hey, here's some of the things we're going up the legislation to try to fight for. And that's one of her bills that she's trying to fight for. But yes, the culinary union said, hey, we need to do something about these rents being out of control. The culinary union has quite a few members that live in North Las Vegas. And so they went to fight for it. And the city was like, man, not our fight. No, we're not going to step in that fray. No, we're not going to do anything to step forward to have anything to do with anything with rent. But their response was, if it comes down from above, then, we'll support and implement it. But if you're asking us to drive it, then no, we're not going to drive it for the city of North Las Vegas solely.
Tell us about the Tunnel for Towers.
So that's an interesting thing. And let me be very clear. I know what I read in the paper, and then I've heard some water cooler gossip. And so I generally try to be very transparent about this isn't official. This is just people speaking out of school, so that just makes it a rumor, in my opinion. But Tunnel for Towers, there is a plot of land.
Tunnel to Towers?
Tunnel to Towers. Tunnel to Towers has a plot of land, North Las Vegas. They wanted to fully fund it, no government
Explain
money.
Where this plot of land is.
It's over by the VA hospital.
Where by the VA hospital?
It's right across from the VA hospital, right?
That's convenient for veterans.
Really makes sense. Which really makes sense.
Which would be very close to where the hospital that was supposed to be being built would have been built.
Exactly.
And that project was supposed to be the hospital, medical research, as well as commercial shopping. Mm-hmm. So that commercial zoning and if we get back into why this is a problem. So they thought they were doing well and moving along. Mm-hmm. The city councilman who they went and talked to was very interested and eager.
Who was the city council?
If I'm not mistaken, I think that's Churchio's ward, Councilman Churchio. So, and he's very veteran friendly, has been.
Until?
Well. So they came with this project, and he said, I think it's a great project. Let's move forward with it. Well, planning and zoning said, well, our master plan says this is zoned for commercial.
And they always go against master plan anyway. So I don't know what's the problem.
Well, if you're Richmond Homes, because I sat in city council meeting after city council meeting after city council meeting, and Richmond Homes walked forward, and Revere in 215, you would think you would want to keep that commercial.
And let me ask you something.
Changed it.
Do you think a commercial development would want to develop there if it wasn't for that VA hospital?
So funny you ask that. So Tunnel to Towers is saying, you have not been able to develop this land. It's sat vacant for years. Mm-hmm. No one commercial is interested, even with the VA hospital being there. Mm-hmm. No one's interested. You have not been able to get interest for this. So we understand that you have a master plan. We understand that the plan has a vision and sees everything. Mm-hmm. We also understand we've watched you change commercial zoning or change single family to multifamily homing or multifamily to single family all the time.
All the time.
But in this scenario,
it's different.
we cannot go against our master plan, which is what the article says.
Maybe they made a promise to somebody down the road or something. There's some inside
here's the thing.
deal that we don't know.
Here's the thing: for years they haven't been able to get anybody to even be interested in it. And here you have Tunnel to Towers paying for everything. They're not asking for a tax break. Mm-hmm. They're not asking for anything. $20 million, willing to put the money up. I think 110 units. Mm-hmm. They're willing to build for veterans. Reduced rate for veterans to be able to live there.
The ones that these politicians come out and say that they love the veterans. You know,
by
those veterans.
By the way,
veterans.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service. Too,
Only during election season. Only during election
That's
time.
what we get, by the way. Thank you for your service is about all you
and thank you for your service. And that's it.
Yes.
That's it.
Now disappear, go away.
And they always want to make money from the veterans.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, so they want a commercial development there so they can make money from the veteran hospital. You know, the people, the patients, the people that staff there, the people that work there, that come over there.
Yeah.
It's all a big hustle for money. But they screw the veterans over all the time, and they have the audacity to come and say, we support veterans.
We heart our veterans.
Prove it, North Las Vegas. Prove how you support the veterans. Prove it.
Are you unfamiliar with the Veterans Center? You know, that mobile trailer they put up over
yeah.
by the YMCA?
That's a joke. That's a joke. That's a joke. It's a mobile unit. That's a joke.
You know that mobile
we
unit?
made a veterans center. That's a joke.
You know that mobile unit mysteriously seemed to be popped up real quick when Pat Spearman, who was running for mayor against Pamela Going Brown and myself as well, all of us, right? It popped up out of nowhere, and nothing more has been developed since it popped up.
Let me tell you another one, okay? We wanted, Veterans in Politics and others wanted a USO at the McCarran Airport. Okay, when it was McCarran Airport. They wanted a USO there. So we were fighting for a USO because veterans used to come in there and they were sleeping all over the place, especially Battalion of Marines going to Pendleton or wherever in California, right? So we wanted a USO. So we went to Harry Reid for this USO. Harry Reid comes back and says, we don't need a USO. There's a USO over at Nellis Air Force Base, a mobile USO. I'm like, well, that's a mobile USO. It's not at McCarran, it's at Nellis.
I'm at McCarran, and if it's at Nellis, how is it going to help me?
How many miles is that? How many miles is McCarran from Nellis?
Kind of hard to make my flight on time if I'm over at Nellis.
Yeah, so mobile USO. So I guess they were going to mobile it to McCarran and mobile it back to Nellis. And I don't know what they're going to do, but they said we don't need it. So they asked me to contact the director of the USO. So I contacted the director of the USO. You know what he tells me? Because this is a casino, because we do gambling here, it doesn't rate a USO.
So how did we end up with one?
So I went to Steve Sisolak,
Okay.
who was the chair of the county commission. And apparently, I think Delta Airlines was moving out or something like that. So he goes, hey, you know, Delta said we could use that space, and we're not going to call it a USO. We're going to call it a military hospitality lounge, because we couldn't use the name USO, because USO wasn't going to get involved. So Steve Sisolak, you could back me up on this, former governor of Nevada. So we're going to call it the Military Hospitality Lounge. So we go in front of the county commission, and everything was good to go to come back to explain why we needed a military hospitality lounge at McCarran.
Right.
Rory Reid on the county commissioner, Rory, on the county commissioner, call up Daddy, Harry Reid, and say, hey, you need to jump on this. You need to get a USO at McCarran Airport, because Harry was running against Sharon Angle at the time, and Sharon Angle was kicking his butt. If she could only zip it sometimes. But anyway, she was kicking his butt. She was kicking his butt.
Okay.
So guess what Harry did?
Got us a USO.
Got us a USO. So now he was
Harry Reid International Airport.
So now he was the veteran. He was the superhero of veterans, because now he got us the USO.
Well, it's my understanding he got us the hospital too. So
he only got us the Shelley Berkeley got the hospital.
Okay.
He only got us the USO because he was down in the polls and he needed the votes. And you know what? I am tired of you politicians that are using veterans all the time to get where you are and then turn your goddamn backs on them. That's disgusting. North Las Vegas City Council, you need to take a good look at yourself.
Well, the residents of North Las Vegas actually need to step up and change who sits in those seats. And if you change who sits in those seats, you have a possibility of changing the way the city operates. But if you continue to let the same people sit in the seats, session after session after session, and when they term out, let them kind of dictate who gets to sit in the seat next, then this is where the challenge lies, right? You have to get engaged. You have to get involved. And I get it, right? Trust me. I have a job. I have a business. I employ 12 people. Right, so I'm making payroll and I'm paying Nevadans every day, and I also have a job and I work to get paid. And sometimes we don't always break even or make money, right? So I reach into my pocket. So my paycheck from my job sometimes make sure the paychecks from my workers get paid. I've got a wife and a life. I've got a kid who's a senior in high school over at Mojave High School. I understand you're busy, but if you don't pay attention, who do you think is going to pay attention? Right? No one's going to come save you, and no one's going to be altruistic. Hey, nobody's looking. I only can have one cookie? You sure? I mean, nobody's looking. I mean, I know 2 might be not good for me, but nobody's looking.
Voter apathy.
You know what I should do? Probably only take 1 at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Then it won't be a big deal. It's not a one total. So, I mean, they got to pay attention too. And this is why these politicians get away with it. As veterans, we need to step up. One of my veteran brethren from Forgotten Not Gone, he said, look, you talked about the culinary. So culinary is opening a health facility right there on Craig Road, and a beautiful looking facility. And he said, hey, I work for them. Your dues go to pay for it. And so they have so many members times $20 a month. It's about $1.2 million every month. They have it. They invest in putting these healthcare facilities up, right? He was like, why don't we as veterans get together, right? Work as a co-op, put our money together, and then invest in the things that are going to support us. But it's hard, right? It's hard because if you talk about, hey, beer night, at some sort of social somewhere, or they're giving you a free hot dog somewhere, veterans show up in force, right?
I just want to address something. You mentioned Shelley Berkeley, and I said she's the one that got the funds for the VA.
I've heard a lot of people give Harry Reid credit for it.
No, it's Shelley Berkeley. And let me tell you something else. Shelley Berkeley didn't have to do that. She was already in her seat in Congressional District 1. She was there. Right. She could still be there right now today if she wanted to. Mm-hmm. Okay, she did it because she was dedicated to the veterans.
So you're saying she did it because it was the right thing to do?
She did it because of pure heart.
Right, it was the right thing to do.
That was the right thing to do. That's why she did it. But Ms. Phillips, do you have anything else from Ms. Atkins?
The most important question. Are you looking at 26 for the mayor's race?
I don't know if I'm looking at the mayor's race. I'm not looking at the mayor's race, but I am looking at 26. So okay. Once you take the rose-colored glasses off and you get engaged and get involved, you understand the structure and the process of how it works, right? And so my name isn't Don Quixote. I will not just tilt at a windmill like I did the first time, right? Nobody who got off the couch ran. Surprise, surprise, I ended up with close to 13% of the vote. So I got over 3,000 and some odd votes. Everybody was like, how did that happen? Who the hell is he, right? So I am looking at what 2026 is looking like. Word on the street has it that there's some structuring as to who they want the next mayor to be and how it's going to play out. And I should pay attention to that structuring. Word on the street also has it that, some people have close to $1 million to run against that race. And so if, I want to run for the mayor race, I better get very active in raising money because I can tell you right now, I'm not independently wealthy and I would have to raise a significant amount of money to combat something like, $1 million to run for the race. But yes, I will be running again. It's just a matter of what. I am actively engaged. I sat on the Civic Review Board for the city of North Las Vegas. I now am sitting on the Charter Committee Board for the city of North Las Vegas. So it wasn't, hey, I ran for mayor because I thought this was going to be a cute thing to do and get me some attention. Oh, I didn't win. And so now I packed up my stuff, went home, and I don't care about the city anymore. Mm-hmm. No, I'm still actively involved and continue to be actively involved. And so I'm playing parts behind the scenes. Sitting on boards and being engaged in what happens with the city and trying to make a difference. You don't always get to make a difference from the leadership seat. Sometimes you make a difference from different seats. Mm-hmm. And my ego isn't that big that I can't be comfortable with making a difference in a seat that isn't a leader seat, although I prefer to make a change in the leader seat, right? But the whole point of it is the engagement and getting involved. Once I got involved, I'll stay involved. Once I got engaged, I'll stay engaged. So I knew that getting off the couch, that once I got engaged, this was going to be an ongoing commitment as long as I live in the city of North Las Vegas. It wasn't just about for my ego, for me to say, oh, look what I did, and have a big cutout picture of my big old head, because it's still sitting in my garage, by the way.
Well, Mr. Atkins, we have to end the program.
Sure.
If you're any last words, Mark will zoom in on you and you
Sure.
give a point of contact if you want.
Absolutely. So I encourage everyone, whether you live in the city of North Las Vegas or not, to go to city council meetings. It is extremely, extremely important. That is something that should be done. By the way, I will say this. A lot of people love to talk about North Town. If you want to go into the history of it, that's fine. You can go figure out why they call it that. But as the city of North Las Vegas goes, so the valley goes, right? I'm a former Army guy, and we come from a mentality of you're only as strong as your weakest link. And so it is the smallest, not talking about Boulder City, of the major cities that we have, it is the smallest. So we have to make sure it's strong if we want the rest of the valley to remain as strong. We can't have a weak point anywhere. And it has a lot of resources and it has a lot of capabilities. So I encourage everyone to get engaged and get involved. If you want to know anything about me, you can find me. I own a business called The Drip Bar. That's right off of Flamingo down by the Palms, thedripbar.com, Las Vegas. Easy to find. So,
Well, thank you, Mr. Atkins.
no, I appreciate you, brother, always.
Absolutely.
Always good to
Good to
see
see you,
you.
too.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, that's Nathan Atkins, former North Las Vegas mayoral candidate, discussing the corruption in North Las Vegas. Folks, you heard everything that we talked about, and I would invite any member of the North Las Vegas City Council to come down and talk about these allegations that we brought up on our show today and try to help us out to understand where your mindset is. Even the city manager or the city attorney, we invite any one of those staff members to come down to our show and explain. But let me tell you this, I am tired of politicians that going around want veterans to support them, and these veteran groups that actually support them but don't even know anything about that politician. That's disgusting all by itself. But I'm tired of these politicians going around to veteran groups to try to get their endorsement and their support and their vote. And then when you're in that official capacity, like a North Las Vegas City Council and mayoral seat, and then you turn your back on them, that's disgusting. That's disgusting. Take a look at yourself. This is Steve Sanson, Stephanie Phillips for Veterans in Politics. Until next time.